Hello, family whom I love so much. Welcome to our Character House lessons. There's going to be a couple of things you're going to need before we really get into these lessons. The first one is you're each going to need to make yourself a character house. And I'll explain that a little bit farther as we go. And also, you're each going to need your grammar school notebooks, or if you don't have that one, just a regular old notebook will be okay, so that you can record these lessons. As a person records their lessons, the things that they learn, they remember them better, and you'll also have a record of all of the things that we have learned in these next few postings as we learn about different character traits. So why character traits? Why is that so important? We've had, for the past few years, we've had some wonderful grammar schools. Haven't we had fun as we have had water balloon fights and night games, and four-wheeler riding. We've had so much fun meeting together as cousins, and we've also had lessons. Remember how we've learned how to use the sewing machine. We've had cooking lessons. We've had gun safety lessons, learning how to use the BB gun. And you've earned money as I've given you different jobs to do. And we've learned how to manage the money, to organize it, and so that it becomes a tool and not a waste in your life. But as I contemplated and thought about grammar school for 2020, I realized the most important thing to me was that you grandchildren learn solid, good character traits that will strengthen you and maintain you through this ever-darkening world that you're growing up in. You're growing up in a world where evil is seeping into every corner and crevice of our lives. You're growing up in a world where the things that, like keeping the commandments and living a good life, are made fun of and ridiculed. You're living in a world where things that are against the commandments are accepted, and everyone says that it is okay to do some of the things the Heavenly Father says is not good. So, and I think, how can I help my children raise sin-resistant children, my grandchildren, to be able to withstand the evil of the world and to be able to stay sin-resistant and righteous. And then I remembered a book. There's an author by the name of Ralph Moody. He wrote stories about his life. These are true stories in the early 1900s, probably 1928 to 1930. And there's a series of them. They're called the Little Britches series. And in the book called Father and I Were Ranchers, Ralph Moody's father is telling him this. Now listen to this quote. A man's character is like his house. If he tears boards off his house and burns them to keep himself warm and comfortable, his house soon becomes a ruin. If he tells lies to be able to do the things he shouldn't do but wants to, his character will soon become a ruin. Man with a ruined character is a shame on the face of the earth. And that's why I came up with the idea of these character houses. As we have a separate character lesson for different characters that we need to have inside of us that are just automatic. We just automatically use them. As we have these lessons, we'll learn about them, and then we'll write the character. There we go. that we learned about on these houses, and then they will be a visual reminder of what you need to have on your insides, and they will be with you for the rest of your life. So that's why it's important to build your character house. So let's define what is character. What does that mean? Characters are those qualities that we have inside of us that guide our lives, either for good or for bad. Let's talk about good character. If we have the character of honesty, whenever we're faced with a decision that deals with honesty, it's just automatically there. It's deep inside of us. Having integrity, being kind, being a peacemaker, having courage. All of these are good character traits that we should have deep inside of us. And actually, many years ago, I read a book, and it's been so long ago I would not be able to find it, but it was talking about George Washington. Now, again, in this world that you grew up, many people are trying to say that George Washington was a bad man. But don't listen to them. He's one of the greatest men that had ever lived. He was raised up by Heavenly Father, and it's because of a lot of the reason because of him and other good men like him that we're able to live in freedom. But George Washington, according to this biography that I read, not a biography, this history book that I read about him, he kept a little journal. He kept a little booklet. And he would think of different character traits that he wanted to have inside of him. And then he would write in that booklet the different character traits he wanted. And he would write about how he was going to accomplish those character traits until it just became an automatic way of life for him. And that's what I'm hoping for you. Now, let's think about George Washington in different situations. Valley Forge, as you learn about history, that was a horrible, cold, miserable, terrible time in the Revolutionary War when he and his soldiers were there in the winter at Valley Forge. Because George Washington had integrity, because he kept promises, he was able to stay there with his men, even though he was cold, even though he was hungry, even though it didn't look like they were going to have any success. But he had the character traits that he needed to withstand that situation and to move our nation forward to become a free nation. So that was kind of a sidetrack. So character traits are those qualities that we have inside of us that guide our lives and our decisions. Now, character traits are different than personalities. Our personalities are our likes and our dislikes and our talents and our abilities and our traits that set us different from other people. But character traits are something that everybody should have that guides our choices and guides our lives. Okay, I want to read this quote one more time. Listen to this carefully. This is Ralph Moody's father teaching him about how to be a good person. A man's character is like his house. If he tears boards off his house and burns them to keep himself warm and comfortable, his house soon becomes a ruin. If he tells lies to be able to do the things he shouldn't do but wants to, his character will soon become a ruin. A man with a ruined character is a shame on the face of the earth. So we're going to end this first introductory lesson on character traits. And remember, next lesson, come with your character house and your notebook ready for learning. And honesty will be our next lesson.